Welcome in, everybody, to another great episode of Roger That Chronicles. We are recording this one just out of Memorial Day. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I am well. Did you have a good Memorial Day?
Yes, we did.
Any big celebrations, or was it just hanging out and being memorable?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question because the holiday as it is not a very fun one and
Correct.
can bring up a lot of different feelings.
Yes.
So, but we were able to get out of town and spend some time with some friends. So that good.
Yeah, that is good. Always a heavy weekend when you truly understand what it means. And my son is still active in the Navy, and he and I always talk, and he is very appreciative. Everybody says, Happy Memorial Day. He goes, hey, that ain't for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is always a good weekend, and heavy when you do understand it. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So we've got Shawn with us today. We're going to talk with Shawn, another Marine, if I understand correct.
Yep, another Marine for the show
with a good story, and we're excited to get him here. Should I just bring him in?
Oh, sure.
Let's do that. There he is, Shawn.
Welcome,
how are you?
Shawn.
Outstanding. How are you guys?
Terrific.
Good.
Wonderful.
What is going on with that shirt you're wearing?
Yeah. So I love that you asked that. My wife, she's been here to help me through like all my mental issues, and so she will tell me, "Are you feeling horrible? Wear a pretty shirt." So nobody else knows. The days that I look the best, I feel the absolute worst. And it's just, it's mostly to see the reflected, beauty in other people's eyes. But yeah, my wife is fantastic, and I can't wait to tell you guys my story.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to hear your stories. I'm sure you have quite a few. So looking at your little bio that you sent, you served in 2003 to 2007, and then you re-enlisted again 2007 to 2016. So why did you originally join the Marine Corps?
Okay. Right. So there's two questions there, right?
Yes.
So the short answer is I joined the Marine Corps to kill people and get paid for it. So
very good.
I can expound on that as much as you want, but I will throughout the story. But then the explanation as to why I'm a retread is what it's known as. I have broken time. So I did my first 4 years, and getting out, I was the salty corporal. No amount of money can get me back in the Corps. And in the end, it wasn't the money that got me back there. As all the negative memories washed away with a little bit of time and distance, what remained was my love for the Brotherhood and my reliance on my brothers to, continue to have a purpose. So I re-enlisted after 4.5 months of sucking at life as a civilian. And it just so happened that my wife was pregnant with our second child at the time. And so there was definitely a little bit of a financial incentive. But the big thing was that I was, the bad stuff kind of washed away, but I was stuck with these nightmares that like my brothers were trying to kill me because they felt betrayed and I was somehow the enemy. So your mind is the biggest factor, I think, long term. A lot of my friends are struggling after the Corps and stuff like that. And I've got friends that are coming up on retirement after 20 years. So, and there's success stories like my buddy Jacob Fry, who's got me several jobs post Marine Corps, and he's kind of the keeper of the records for where everybody's at, their status, their sit rep, all that stuff. He's kind of the one-stop shop. He's like the oracle, if you will. So if somebody's in need, he's usually the person to like source that. So he's a huge success story and inspiration. And my buddies that are getting ready to retire, you know, they're going to be in for a long, hard ride of figuring out who you are outside of the uniform. But yeah,
you've got so much there. Could go so many different directions.
Mm-hmm. And like I told you, I will stray as far from the path and go down every rabbit hole you want to go down. So I'll just say, you know, a little bit of my background. 0311 Infantry, United States Marine Corps. When I eventually got out after 12 and a half years, I got out as a staff sergeant. I've been on 5 deployments, and 2 of them combat, and 1 of them was now, I think, classified as a combat deployment, but I didn't officially get a combat action ribbon for being blown up. Wow. I think at that point, to get a combat action ribbon, you had to return fire at an enemy that was shooting at you or something along those lines. So, yeah, that was the 2008 Iraq deployment with 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines. Wow. But so 2, you know, full-fledged combat deployments, 1 to Najaf, Iraq, and then 1 to Afghanistan. And we kind of like swept eastward through all kinds of different areas and cultures and that stuff. And then a couple floats. So got to see Hawaii, Singapore, Thailand. Got a train in Australia, but didn't get to enjoy the Liberty. Liberty is when they cut you loose to go do a long distance run in drinking, give you free time. So we didn't get to enjoy that because there was a tropical storm that was coming. So we hiked. It was something like 20 miles back to the boat. Got back on the boat and went back out to sea. So,
yeah, you were how old when you went in?
Let's see. I was 19 because when I graduated in 2003, 2003. Yep, I was 19. So I went in 9 days after I graduated. I knew exactly what I wanted to do.
Really?
Picture me in elementary school. I've already made my own ghillie suit at this point. I'm wearing nothing but like olive drab cargo pants, like Marine Corps issue, like stuff. And I'm sitting in a tree at a place we called the Fort. And we lived in Fort Collins at this time. And my best friend, who I love to mess with, was down at this creek behind his house. And so I'm up in this tree just being stealthy as all get out. Predator's my hero, you know. And he has no idea I'm up there equipped with 3 wonderful rocks and a slingshot. And I shoot this like flat rock and it curves and bounces off his head. And he loses his mind and runs back to his house without having any idea what happened and who did it. So my parents say I was born to be a Marine. And yeah, I was like.
That's amazing. So you nobody in your family, like your dad, your mom, weren't in the Corps?
No, I had my Uncle Bob was in the Coast Guard, and my uncle Kenny was in the Air Force, and so they were both trying to pull me, you know, this way and that. But I had seen a documentary on the Few, the Proud, the Marines, and I was like, I want to be one of them. So.
Because at 19, most of the people you graduated with had no idea what they wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people in their 50s who still don't know what they want to do, right?
I'm going to be one of them, brother.
You know,
because I always tell people I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Because the only thing I ever wanted to be, and the only thing I really prepared to be, was a Marine. And when I stopped being able to like perform at the level I expected of myself. It was no question. It was like, it's time for me to get out and make a hole for somebody better. But, that was a long, it took about 2 months for me to come to that realization, going through PTSD and memory loss, severe memory loss. But it's not all bad. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and all praise be to God for pulling me out of that darkness of despair. Without going into too much detail, like when I actually came to Christ, he took me on a spirit adventure where he took away my worst traumas, took me straight into them and helped me out with them. So that's my biggest impact moment, was actually coming to my Lord and Savior. But let's go from the beginning. So I've got a couple pieces of advice
around here
to those that would, and keep in mind, I'm a DoorDash driver. So take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, but
package of salt.
Yeah. A pinch of salt. Yeah. I'm not the end all be all. I'm just having a good time. So so my first deployment was to Najaf, Iraq, and it was a radical one. We got shot at almost every single day. And, we were there under orders to liberate Najaf from the, what are they called? The Mahdi militia, and their leader was Muqtada al-Sadr. And so it kind of came to a head in August, where we find ourselves in this 5 square mile cemetery, and we're getting shot at from 7-story buildings on 3 sides, our right, in front, and a couple to our left. And on our direct left is the Imam Ali Mosque, which is the 4th most holy place in all of Islam. This cemetery that we're in is where the Muslims believe that Adam and Eve are buried. So it's very significant. We knew that going in, and it's the first time we've been allowed in this area. It was a cultural, religious site, and we weren't allowed to go in it. So we gave them standoff, and we watched the enemy, build their forces and train their people inside that area, and we just can't do anything unless they're, shooting at us. So, I watched one of my best friends basically catch a mortar with his face and get up and run through the black and tan smoke. I've seen some radical stuff, and some beautiful stuff. I had some amazing times with the Marines that I was there with, and had some horrible times, but those horrors were done for a reason. And, those that are struggling with the pullout of Afghanistan and all that stuff, it's like, bro, nobody can take your sacrifice and the honor that the courage that took to defend what we hold dear. And so it's like, don't ever, lose sight of that and give power to anybody in anger. And that has been a long road going from somebody who on his free time skips rocks off his best friend's head, to what my wife describes as defending our peace. And it kind of reminds me of a Japanese adage, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Yeah. So God put me in those places, and I was purpose built for that. But then those places, those experiences, those equipped me for later on in life. And, what you guys are doing here, for me personally, Operation Finally Home is one of those things where they built my family a mortgage-free house. Wow. And they'll do it for you if you're 60% or higher disabled, whether you're a first responder, police officer, or military. It doesn't matter. They'll they're looking for you. So as my best friend said, fill out the document, the application, and let them decide what you deserve. So there's resources out there. And I think the onus on dealing with these issues lies on the individual. Take absolute responsibility for your own mental health and seek help, when you need it. And for me, like my brothers in arms are who I rely on. I realized a little bit slowly that my wife it's unfair for me to lay all that burden on her, dealing with that. So my brothers, and then if they can't help, then it's the VA. Getting plugged in there, but yeah. Sure. What do you guys want to know?
So that was your first enlistment. What was your second one like?
Yeah, great question. So my second enlistment, the Marine Corps was basically like, screw us. You want to turn your back on us and get out and then come back to daddy? No, screw you. So they sent me to 29 Palms, where no Marines want to go. No corpsmen want to go. Nobody wants to go to 29 Palms. They call it the stumps for a reason. And so I remember when I got orders to 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines, I was in dress blues on recruiter's assistance in Fort Collins, Colorado, walking around the Foothills Fashion Mall, trying to pick up new recruits. And I get this call and he's like, you got orders to 29 Palms. So I'm like, crap, my wife has been there. She hates that place and I've got to break the bad news. So I called her. She cried on the phone. It was the whole thing. When we showed up and checked in, she had to stay a few days with her mother and our one daughter, and she was pregnant with the second, in a Motel 8 right off of base there on Del Valle. So then I show up the next morning to PT and there's nothing there. Like when you're driving in at night, it looks like there's lights everywhere, but there's nothing there. But 29 Palms, it's like a bad fungus. It'll grow on you. And I think, for the war in the desert and sand, there is no better training opportunity than 29 Palms. So that being said, 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines redefined for me what professionalism in combat looks like. They trained like they fought and they fought like they trained. It wasn't do it until you get it right. It was do it until you can't get it wrong. And through that grind of a workup where there was and this is the first, I guess this is the second deployment. I'm kind of mixing up timelines, but my first deployment with 3-7 was to Iraq again. And there wasn't a whole lot going on, except for like 2-liter IEDs that would blow off my front tire or maybe blow off the engine compartment. Nobody was seriously injured on that deployment. So that's why I say like it was not a combat deployment. We were just getting blown up here and there. But we had a great time, great unit. But it was the following deployment, which would have been my 4th deployment, that kind of defined who I was to be as a Marine leader. I was a sergeant and I got hand plucked to be the jump platoon commander. And for those that don't know, a sergeant is not typically blessed with command of a platoon. They're usually at best a platoon sergeant. And so I became the jump platoon commander. And what that means is I was basically an overpaid, overglorified taxi driver for the battalion commander and sergeant major. And because our battalion commander was so willing and like thirsty to get in the fight, wherever the fight was happening, that's where we were headed. So it was not a boring deployment. I lost my best friend and second in command on that deployment, doing what he thought I would do. And for those witnesses that saw what happened, it looked like he kicked the IED. And I can trace that back to where he picked that up, to a specific debrief where somebody jokingly said that I was out there kicking IEDs and shit. And I wasn't. It's moon dust. So when you're digging down to the hard pan and looking for wires and pressure plates, you're also kicking up a lot of dust. And to this individual that made that comment, he said, Friesen's out there kicking IEDs and shit. So, yeah, that was tough. I had been CASEVAC the day before for being blown up 3 times in 2 days. And I was in close proximity to a 4th one that went off on my second truck right after I hit one. I'm out there with the metal detector looking for secondaries, and there's just wires and washers and nuts strewn about in this gravel that the enemy put there, so we can't find it. So I'm like, dude, there's an IED on that hill. There's an IED on that hill. I'm not putting you guys up there. Just drive the truck through. And of course, that second truck hit a secondary, and I was knocked on my butt, and I couldn't formulate human thought into the English language. Wow. So my OPSO at the time, Major Nielsen, he called up and he was like, "How you doing?" This was the only time he was ever on the convoy, and he called up. He was like, "Friesen, how you doing?" And I was like, "I can't figure out how to use this computer in my lap. It's called a Blue Force Tracker. I've used it 1,000 times, but I couldn't even think of the name." And so there was a lot of guilt and stuff, that I carried around for, if I had been there, would my best friend have been killed? If I had trained them harder. And it's like, no, we did everything we were supposed to do. And he did everything he was supposed to do. He died doing what he loved. He was the most honorable man. And I'm not just saying that because he was killed. This dude would challenge me on the way out for every mission. He would stand in the doorway flexing with his rifle slung across his back. He would set his map and everything down on a rack, and he would just stand in the doorway while the Marines walked past him. And then, I'm gathering my things. I'm always walking around like a nerd with maps and stuff. And he'd be like, "Come get some." And we would roll, until he choked him out with his own weapon or a rack or something. And then we'd go on a mission. But yeah, that dude was an absolute warrior, and he died doing warrior stuff. So, yeah, I miss him a great deal. Miss all my buddies that I've lost, but the fight was worth it. From our perspective, nobody can take that away. And
yeah, and there's no rhyme and reason in war and trying to make any sense out of it. And even the woulda, coulda, shouldas. I mean, you guys are trained and you go out there and you do what you do.
Mm-hmm. It's
unfortunately stuff happens,
Just last night, I was talking with my 15-year-old daughter, and she was asking about the Ukrainian war. She says, "Well, is Ukraine winning?" And I go, "Nobody really wins the war, honey." Mm-hmm. I said, one side loses less than the other side. Mm-hmm. I said, but war isn't like it is in Hollywood. I go, it's glorified there, but it's ugly, it's messy, and there are no winners, unfortunately,
Yeah.
And I wanted her to understand that. She's got a brother who's, seen action,
right.
And, and I, and Shawn, same thing, man. But bless you and thank you for what you've done to allow me to sit behind this goofy microphone and ask weird questions to people.
Yeah.
There's a question though. You're a hashtag girl dad, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And you every dad, one of his daughters is just like him.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a daughter who's built for maybe what you're built for. How does that fit with you?
Oh man. Yeah, it is difficult, or it has been difficult in the past. But what I've come to realize is that they are like me, and I know all the levers and buttons.
Sure.
You know, I know how this works, but it's the biggest thing is like I see my ego in them, and it's like, okay, all right, I got to treat that with soft hands, because that's been my biggest, issue was my pride, my ego. You say something against me, it hurts my feelings. I might just, take this all the way. So it's been awesome to be on kind of the backside of my more childish, horrific ways, if you will,
Sure.
violent, angry tendencies, and kind of put that away because it no longer serves me, and be able to guide them through that stuff. So it's not me like barking orders anymore. There was a time when that was how I interacted with my children. It's like, yeah, do this. You don't really have a choice, that kind of thing. But my relationship with them, all three of them, has never been better. So
how did you make that transition? You already mentioned earlier that when you got out the first time, that was terrible. And let's not do that. Let's go back in.
Yeah.
Then even going back in, you're coming back out with even more baggage. That's the term my husband and I use, because I have lots of baggage, and he's my baggage handler.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, so I did my kind of transitioning in the back of a big rig. So like I said, I don't know what I want to be. So when I was transitioning out of the Marine Corps as a staff sergeant, I was going to a truck driving CDL Class A school right off of 29 Palms. And so I started driving over the road, kind of traveled the country that way, and just kind of learned who I was outside of the uniform. And I dealt with a lot of my like anxiety issues, because it's weird, like I've kicked in doors, I've initiated contact with the enemy, and I'm afraid to talk to people. It's freaking weird. Social anxiety, kind of a wonderful little treat. But yeah, so for me, I was truck driving. I was away from my family more as a truck driver than I was in the Marine Corps. And for me, that was an issue. So we found a job down in League City, Texas, that was a local job. And that way I could be home every day. I worked nights moving mobile MRIs and PET CTs around Houston. So I was left to my own devices at night. And so I listened to podcasts, listened to the Bible, that kind of stuff, and listened to audiobooks. And my wife has been a huge supporter, helping me kind of digest and unpack the black box that when we're compartmentalizing stuff, we're just jamming that thing full. And it turns into a jack in the box that springs open when a 4th of July rocket goes off, or, the first shot goes off at the rifle range. I know I'm here, but it's like, that's always kind of there. But she's helped me digest those emotions and knee-jerk reactions, and kind of try to overwrite the triggers a little bit too, so that I'm not having mental breakdowns, once a quarter. So it is a lot of work, but like I said at the beginning, it is 100% the individual's responsibility, because I've got friends, that made a temporary problem into a permanent solution. And it's like, man, I wish I was included in that conversation, and I might have been able to help you through it. So reach out if you're hurting. And, I couldn't have done it without my wife, without my amazing kids, without my church family. It's been amazing. And then my blood family as well. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, what if somebody is like not married or doesn't have a church family? What?
Yeah. So, one of the big things that I think would have helped me, and I wish that somebody had told me this, was don't just drink your paychecks. I was single for a large portion of my enlistment, and it's perfectly doable with a joyful heart, but when you start drinking your paychecks and you're just wasting away in the barracks, that's a recipe for depression. That's a recipe for, sticking your nose straight into the stuff that you're trying to like heal from. And instead of actually like dealing with stuff in a healthy way, like plugging into, I don't know, if I was back in Pendleton again, plugging into a scuba diving community or the spearfishing community or the skydiving community, you've got that expendable income. So why not put it to use in a skill that you can transfer after, your service and have a great time doing it. So I think finding positive ways, and for my Marines that, are non-believers, for military people in general, it's like helping people still feels good. So if you're feeling depressed, if you're trying to work through stuff, go serve at a soup kitchen. You're going to feel 1,000,000 times better. Just having helped a few people, and it kind of puts in perspectives. My troubles aren't so bad. So yeah, make the best use of where you're located. Japan's another one of those where you can be scuba diving some of the most beautiful stuff, or you can just be, partying and doing the stuff that I did. Almost missing flights to be home for the birth of your children.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah. So
how did the spiritual aspect help you?
Oh man, it gave me a context through which to view and digest things. So, like for me, the impactful moments are like the first time I saw a dead person, the first time I took someone's life, those are things that you have to come to terms with. Like what do I do with these feelings? What do I do with the consideration that was somebody's dad? That was somebody's son. They believed wholeheartedly in what they're doing enough to go to the death, just as I do. So for me, it gave me a foundation that, I'm going to struggle. I'm going to suffer. I'm going to lose friends, but none of that is going to detract from the light that believing that I have been saved from my own destructive ways. That's an extremely negative impact on, and I've got pictures of demons that I felt like were in me at my lowest points. Wow. And, he pulled me out of that and changed everything, gave me a path to follow. And you don't always recognize it, but it's like, do the best you can with what you've got. And that's basically what being a Marine is. It's adapt and overcome. And every step that I take, into the unknown, he provides a sure footing for me. So yeah, I wasn't always happy with him. I was like, why? If you're in control of everything, how can you allow this? And you have to deal with that. Ask him.
I love, with everything you've seen, with everything you've been through in your life, amazing to me that you open-minded enough and open-hearted enough to allow that in, and maybe for a different show, or maybe even a different show other than Roger That Chronicles, is I'd love to just talk with you about that, because I'm fascinated how the Lord works. And you said, he took me on a path and showed me the dark, and then the light was on the other side. And to me, that's a blessing and just an amazing thing that I'm fascinated with.
Yes.
That journey, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we'll either have you back on or else we'll bring you in for a different show, because just the way the Lord works is marvelous, and I can't wrap my brain around it all the time.
Oh, I know it.
But
I can't wait to ask him, in person.
Yeah, right. And it's just and to me, you're programmed for being a Marine.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had friends who went in at 19 and got out after 20 years, 25 years, full career. And it is that brotherhood, and it is everybody's pulling for the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come back and you get a job at Walmart, we'll say. And
that's what I did when I got out the first time.
See, and not everybody's pulling for the same thing, and you can't wrap your brain around that. Like, guys, we got a job to do. Let's do this job. And 90% of the people there don't want to do it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny because I straight up lifed my coworkers out. I was 100% an infantry Marine. So I'm like knife handing these Walmart employees who are just trying to skate. They're trying to earn a paycheck without doing work. And it's like, I told you to organize the Bunzel room this way.
Right.
It's crazy.
Right. But that's hard. I coach athletics, and I tell the women all the time. I'm a college basketball coach. I tell the women all the time. I'm like, y'all don't have to be friends outside of here.
Right.
But teammates. And I go, teammates will go through a lot more things than friends will for the rest of your life. I'm still teammates and connected with my college basketball team members that are still around. And I'm like, we don't hang out every weekend, but let me tell you what, if somebody raises that red flag, guess what? We're there.
Right.
Without asking a question. That's what the Marines are, right? It's just like, well, I'm there. Yeah. Whose car are we taking? Mine?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Of course I'm in. Do I need a shovel? What are we doing?
Exactly.
So I have another question. So what was like the most valuable tool that you think you learned being in the Marine Corps?
Yeah, probably. And I'm drawing a blank on the word right now, but
is it knife hands?
Yeah. No. It's tenacity. It's I'm drawing a blank on the word I'm looking for, but it's I'm gonna stumble a lot. I'm gonna fall flat on my face, and I do have nightmares, and I do have breaking points where I don't act, as a rational human should, but that doesn't mean that the fight isn't worth it. It doesn't mean that the pursuit of perfection and being a more useful husband, father, friend, like how can I display love to other people now is kind of my fight. So it's that it's not diligence, but starts with a D. But that tenacity, just being able to overcome adversity and, like take it's right now because age is humbling me, and I've got like all kinds of little ailments that are preventing me from practicing jujitsu and being as active as I want. So it's like, how do I redefine my self-worth if not defined by acts? By capability, by my ability to defend my family physically. It's like, it's weird, but so that tenacity is the big thing.
And you guys, your bodies were really, really torn down.
Yeah.
Just doing what you guys had to do. You know? Even just like the training and those 100-pound packs.
Yeah. And 300-pound logs running up Sugar Cookie and up, the Alpha Shelf in Pendleton. That was like our daily PT was just destroy your knees, hips, and back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Yeah, right. Strap in, dog. It's going to be a long ride. I can only imagine the first sergeants and sergeants major when they get out. Their shoulders are destroyed. Everything is destroyed.
Yeah.
But
so what would you tell? You did some recruiting, and there's I don't know if there's any higher honor than to be in the military and fight for our freedoms. But what would you tell that junior or sophomore in high school right now that is going, I don't know what I want to do, but I feel maybe I'm being called, to the Marines. What would you tell them? How to work through that, or hurry up, giddy up, hoorah! That's
Yeah. So the great thing about the Marine Corps is it sells itself. I would be upfront and honest. I would ask them a series of questions like, what are your interests? What is it you're looking to get out of military life? Because honestly, if they're like, I don't know what I want to do, but I'm thinking maybe Marines, it's like, maybe consider Air Force or something where you can like kind of not have your butt worn out trying to figure out what you want to do.
Sleep in a bed every night.
Yeah, I would say do a little bit of research, because you're going to absolutely hate your first 2.5 years of existence in the Marine Corps. You get treated like absolute dog doo-doo. And, it makes everybody want to get out at first, until you
not there's more than infantry in the Marine Corps.
Absolutely. But I'm telling you, that's what I would tell a Marine. And I've told it to so many and converted them to the infantry boat. It's like, you're going to hate your life, but it's going to be worth it. So, but what I tell my kids, what I tell my kids is like, the military hands down is the best solution, in my opinion, for, you don't know what to do. You don't know what job you can do. Join the military, let them kind of feed you, school you up, provide you with transportation and experiences. And while you work through, who you are in the mix of all that, it doesn't have to be infantry. There's a job for every job that's in the civilian sector is represented in military as well. So the Marines have supply, they've got cooks, they've got, all these things. So does the Army, so does the Navy. Do you like ships? Awesome, go Navy. I hate ship life. I had a mild psychotic break on ship, but to each their own. There are people that absolutely love it.
I couldn't love it either on a ship. My son loves it. I'm like, you're crazy. There's no
way. Yeah, but I think the biggest thing is like, you have to have a desire to push yourself, and I think there has to be that kind of, it's not really like patriotism, I think is what it comes down to. This is something that I'm considering worthy of signing away 4 years of my life to. So it's not for everybody, but it can be, and it's a great way to feed your family. It's a great way to have them school you. Like I said, they'll pay for your college. I used a little bit of mine to do the truck driving school, but I've still got the majority of it to either give to my kids or use myself later on. So the military is a great option if you're impoverished, and you just can't continue to exist. It's like, rather than taking your life, join the military.
Right.
Because we would love to have more brothers and sisters who, like are willing to put their lives on the line for, what we've got. Right. The most amazing nation on the planet.
Right.
Like, I'm sitting here in my own room talking to you guys through an infrastructure supported by freedom, basically.
Amen.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's pretty amazing.
And we thank you for your service for that as well.
Oh, heck yeah. My brother would tell you I did it for the discounts.
I just wanted to shop at the Next. That was it.
Yeah. That's so funny.
Well, go ahead and give us a funny story.
Okay. All right.
Because you've been pretty deep here with a lot of deep stuff. So,
okay. All right. So, okay. I'm going to tell you a story that takes place on post in Iraq. And this is kind of to display the boredom as well. So, as you can imagine, you don't want to be smoking a cigarette on post. You're going to draw attention to yourself by having that cherry in the dark. Sure. So I am smoking out of a magazine. So the magazine that goes into my rifle, I've removed the bottom like spring detent, and I've put my cigarette inside there. So there's no light coming out, and I'm just sucking on a magazine is what it looks like. And when I finish this cigarette, I open it up and I flick it over the edge, and didn't really think anything of it. We're sitting there and it's probably 2:30 in the morning, 0 dark 30. And we're just bored. It's me and my buddy Collinwood. And we start seeing smoke and smelling smoke. And I'm like, where is that coming from? And, I look over the edge of the post and there's a bunch of frayed sandbags at the bottom that have caught fire. So, I run down there with an e-tool and some water and I put it out. Well, about 15 minutes later, it's smoking again. And this time it's like actually flaming up. And I'm like, oh crap. So I go down there, I dump Collinwood's water on it. So now we're out of water. And I've wasted it all on putting this fire out. And the last time it lit up, we urinated on it to get it. But yeah, I have a tendency to urinate in places that you probably shouldn't.
So that put it out?
Yes, it did, to my knowledge. It could have been something that the later post that relieved us had to deal with, but
right, man.
I like to think I did my due diligence.
I just smell like smoking urine over here.
Yes. Oh man.
Oh my god, that's hilarious. That's but that's so great. Do you take all the precautions to not be seen, whatever, and then all of a sudden you've got a bonfire.
Make a fire.
Yes. Yeah. Another real quick one from my time as a combat instructor. If you guys have time for it.
Yeah.
I almost killed one of my students. And it was kind of the long kill. So this is over the course of 2 different weeks. In one field event up on the defense, I caught him sleeping and I had a CS canister. We call it chicken soup, but it's riot control gas, duct taped to the end of a stick so I could get a little bit more reach on it. So I let it fly and hit him in the face with it, because he was bobbing, and he saw me, he caught me, but I was already too close to him. So I just sprung at him. And in the process, I stole his gas mask and I kept it for 2 weeks. So every time they got gassed, he was without, and he would request his gas mask. And I'd be like, no, the enemy has it. You're not getting that back. So fast forward a week to the urban field exercise, and it's the culminating event. It's where these squad leaders get to show what they've learned and demonstrate what they've learned in the course. And it is tough. We basically keep them awake for 5 days with loud music and lots of gas and arty sims. And one of the instructors, I won't say his name, I had just laid down in the instructor hooch, the house for the instructors. And I hear over the radio, did we get all the studs, students? And there's another voice on the radio and it goes, no, we're missing one. And I'm like, what are you guys missing? Because I'm the assistant chief instructor at this point. And come to find out, one of the instructors had thrown a CS grenade into the house that the students were in and caught a couch on fire. And so this student is crawling around in the smoke and CS without a gas mask. And
No.
so, man, did I feel like a jack, right. What a horrible thing to have one of your students go through. But I wasn't there to make friends, I wasn't there to be nice, but I wasn't there to kill him either.
And you know what? This soldier probably says the same story. It's like, without that, I wouldn't be the soldier that I am.
Yeah, I hope so. Man, because I loved him. He was a great student,
Yeah.
But
that's hilarious.
I know he was mad at me afterwards. So
it's all your fault. How does
yes. Yeah. I had to answer for that one.
Oh, jeez. That's great.
A difficult hill to get over.
Inadvertently like that.
Say again?
We all do things inadvertently like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good times as a combat instructor. Really was not the rest that I was looking for after the Afghanistan deployment, but
we may do.
All righty. Well, we're just about out of time, but let me ask you one more question. What thing would you like to convey to your other brother and sisters in arms?
You're never alone. Even especially when it seems like nothing's going your way, you're never alone. Reach out to somebody. There's somebody just waiting to receive that call. Don't shortchange me or another one of your brothers on an opportunity to help you out, because we're here to hug, we're here to talk it through, and we're here to help each other thrive. And that takes some adaptation on your part, on my part, and rely on your brothers and sisters. We need each other.
Good words.
Love it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. You've brought a lot of insight to a lot of different areas in life in general too.
Yeah. Well, it's been my privilege, guys. Thank you so much for the invitation and the opportunity.
Hey, once you're part of the RTC here, you're welcome back anytime, brother. And like I said, I'm definitely going to connect with you because I want to check out that other journey. So
nice.
Absolutely. Thank you for your service. Thank you. Give your wife and daughters a hug, because the work that they do for you and with you is immeasurable, and those are incredible human beings to do that for you. So.
Yes.
Will do. Thank you guys so much. This has been awesome. God bless you guys.
Thanks. You. God bless you too.
For all of us here at 216 Creator Studios, this has been another great episode of Roger That Chronicles.